Hello everyone, I'm Sette. Thank you so much for sitting with me and allowing me this opportunity to share with you the astrological influences, some of the astrological influences that are coming our way in March of 2016. It seems that we are progressing very quickly through this year, and those of you who might be interested, I recently just posted a blog regarding my interpretation of why it appears as though time has been accelerating, especially since 2004. And if you'd like to read about my interpretations of this phenomena, you can go onto my website at astrologerray.com and click on the blog section, and there it will take you to my blog. So many of us are aware that we are coming to a time of eclipse. I have been talking about this for quite some time. On March 8th, we have a total solar eclipse, and it is in the sign of Pisces. Now, I've mentioned that the time leading up to an eclipse, it's very similar to the time leading up to a new moon, because a new moon, a solar eclipse, it's a new beginning. A new moon is a new beginning of a lunar cycle, and it's defined by going month to month. A solar eclipse, new moon, it's the beginning of a longer cycle of experience for us. A solar eclipse will signify many significant endings in our lives because it is preparing us for a significant new beginning time period. And as I was saying, the few days leading up to a new moon, about 3 days leading up to a new moon, and about 3 months leading up to a solar eclipse, it's a time of clearing, cleansing, and purging. It's a time for us to clear away what no longer serves a purpose so that we can begin a new cycle of experience with a clean slate. With a solar eclipse specifically, we want to be very aware of all the conditions and experiences that are around us at that time of the solar eclipse, because all those energies will be encoded for longer periods of time. So we want to be very conscious and be very, very aware of all that we are experiencing, all that we are setting in motion about 24 hours before the eclipse, 24 hours after the eclipse, and certainly on the day of the eclipse. As I said, the solar eclipse, it's on March 8th, and the exact time of the solar eclipse is 8:55 p.m. That's still Eastern time, still Standard Time, Eastern Standard Time. So as I said, be as aware as you possibly can be of everything that you are setting in motion the day before, the day of, and the day after the solar eclipse. Some suggestions: you never want to pay bills on a solar eclipse, because you certainly don't want to set up 6 months or more of having to pay bills. You never want to take money out of bank accounts. You always want to put money into bank accounts. Also, if you are seeking new employment, you want to send resumes out on the day of the solar eclipse as well. So those are just a couple of points that I suggested. As I said, be aware of everything that you're setting in motion through energy, through your intentions at that time, because potentially they will be encoded for longer periods of time. The solar eclipse is in a sign of Pisces. One of the lower vibrations of Pisces is that it connects with deep-seated fear. As I've mentioned, I believe it was in my last video, that we are at a time where we can observe a surge of fear being released in the outside world. We can also experience that on a personal level as well. The value in that is that, as I said, we want to clear away what no longer serves a purpose. So if there are any fears, especially deep-seated fears, and many times when a fear is deep-seated, it's something that connects us with experiences that we've had many, many years ago, perhaps when we were very young. And it doesn't mean that there was something fundamentally wrong that took place. It was just an experience that's allowing us to really become who it is that we become. However, after a certain amount of time, the experience may not longer serve a purpose, and it may be something that at an unconscious level, it in very subtle ways sets in motion energy that towards experiences that we may not necessarily choose to have. So when we approach anything from a higher sense of awareness, and we choose to reflect on the experiences with love, but also allow ourselves to be shown what needs to be released, we will be given the information, especially from Spirit, as to what it is that we need to do to release that fear. As I said, the sign Pisces connects with these very deep-seated fears, because in the natural astrological chart, the sign of Pisces is ruled by the planet Neptune, and it connects with the sector of the chart, the 12th house sector of the chart. That's the section of the chart that connects with our subconsciousness. It also connects with our past lives, specifically the embodiment that we experienced before we came into this current embodiment. And many times we carry with us memories, energies, experiences from those prior lifetimes into this form, because we need to resolve them and rise above them. And unfortunately, many times we're not always aware of that. Some of us will have that as a more significant experience in our lifetime, and again, it's really dependent upon whatever it is that we need to experience personally at this time while we are in this state of this human form. So as I said, as I am encouraging you to do, continually allow yourself to be aware, especially in these next few weeks, of whatever fears are being presented to you, so that you can release them. Allow yourselves to recognize what that is showing you about yourself. You know, whenever we have a solar eclipse, whenever we have a lunar eclipse, which is later on this month on March 23rd, which I will get to in a moment. The lunar eclipse, in and of itself, also does allow us to recognize where there might be darkness in our lives. Because if you think about it this way, a full moon will light up the dark. It lights up the night. It allows us to recognize and to see and to observe what we might not necessarily see in the dark. Many times when especially during the winter time, on the night of a full moon, when the sky is clear, it is so very bright, and it so intensely lights up the night that we could. It's almost like twilight. It's almost, like that time right before the sun comes up, when we can really begin to see everything very, very clearly. So, going back to what I was saying about fear, allow yourself to recognize what is being released. Also, in terms of fear that no longer serves a purpose. Also, at the time of the new moon solar eclipse, there's a heavenly body called Chiron. Chiron is a planetoid. It's a smaller planet that orbits between Saturn and Uranus, the outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Chiron, at the time of the new moon, is in very close proximity to the new moon solar eclipse. Chiron, in and of itself, astrologically refer to Chiron as being the wounded healer. Many times wherever that element is placed in our charts is very much indicative of where we need some of our most deepest healings. So to add to the healing element, but also to the release of the fear, that placement, that elements in this in this new moon solar eclipse chart further indicates that we are at that much more of a time of this release of fear. Whatever in our lives needs to be healed, allow yourself to do so now more than ever, so that you can move forward with whatever it is that you would desire for yourself. On March 20th, we have the vernal equinox. We have the beginning of spring. The vernal equinox, the sun transiting into the sign of Aries, that's the beginning of the astrological year. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. Aries very much connects with the entrepreneur, if you will, someone who is very much a philanthropist, someone who is very much a self-starter. You know, so many of us in these last few years are really being given the opportunity to recognize how we can be entrepreneurs in our own life. And those of us who are very intently being given this opportunity to recognize this element within ourselves, it's because we need to break away from that corporate structure that may not necessarily be serving a greater purpose. And when I'm talking about this, I'm referring to a greater purpose meaning the highest good for all concerned. You know, every one of us has the ability to create something that will benefit everyone, not only ourselves, and that's really being that humanitarian. And I'm prefacing what I'm going to say about the lunar eclipse on March 23rd because it's in the sign of Libra, which is actually, Libra is the exact polar opposite of the sign Aries. And the significance of being in service to humanity that I'm referring to with the lunar eclipse chart of March 23rd is that the chart, the lunar eclipse chart, astrological chart that is cast for the United States, it highlights the 6th house sector of the lunar eclipse chart, which deals with our service to humanity. So we will all become very, very aware of what it is to be our service to humanity, and if we are already aware of what we are doing in terms of our service to humanity, we will be given information to take it to that next level. Eclipse are power points. The time of an eclipse, both eclipse, solar eclipse and lunar eclipse, those are power points during the course of the year. At the time of an eclipse, the alignments with the sun, the moon, and the earth are very exact and very specific. So the energies are more concentrated at that time than they are at other times of the year. So eclipses are turning points. As I said, eclipse will signify major endings in our lives as well as represent significant new beginnings in our lives. Eclipses in and of themselves are really neither negative or positive. How the energies of an eclipse will unfold, it's really dependent upon what we have done, what we have set in motion personally and collectively up until the time of the eclipse. As I said, it's neither negative or positive. And I always encourage everyone, you know, it's karma. It's whatever energy we set in motion will certainly come back to us. An eclipse period is poignant in such that it will punctuate the time of the karmic energy really coming back to us. So we certainly want to be aware at all times what we set in motion and be aware of this amplified time of the eclipse. So with that, I just want to reiterate that I will be coming back to the mystical moon. I believe my first day meeting with clients will be on April 19th, and already the schedule is filling up. I very much look forward to meeting with everyone once again, talking about everything that we have talked about over the course of many years, and further just helping each other out really on our spiritual journey to take us all to that next level. So until we meet again, stay in the light, stay in a place of love. Many blessings. Namaste.